So there's 3 areas of change that we're going to talk about as it relates to travel to Mexico. The price and the cost to get residency, how it's going to be affected or how it's predicted to be affected. By 2026, it will be cost prohibitive for many. We're going to talk about what's happening at the border when we enter just as visitors. And we're going to talk about what the tariffs may look like as well. Many of you saw how the Mexican president, is it Sheinbaum, responded to Grump and his threats for increased tariffs. Okay, there we go. So this was the headlines. Mexico president on Grump threat. One tariff will be followed by another. Mexico vows to, this is the Washington Post, Mexico vows to retaliate if Trump imposes 25% tariff. Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum schools Grump over tariffs. Business Insider says Mexico vows to retaliate with its own trade barriers, putting U.S. joint ventures at risk. And so this is the conversations that will be continuous, I think, over the next foreseeable future, which also means that when it comes to our freedoms to be able to just cross both U.S. and Canada, because the same conversations are happening with the Canadian government and the U.S. as well, they will be affected. And we need to be ahead of the effectationes. So this is what this topic is today is going to be about. And so I'm going to pull up the other slides right now. So many people are interested in getting Mexican residency. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to research which consulate is close to me, which consulate, and you could look at some of the comments. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm in South Carolina. What's the closest consulate? So I create these things based on the multiple questions that I get on the topic, on the subject. So this residency guide just makes it easy for you. You don't have to scour the internet. There's clickable links. So what's inside? A list of Mexican consulates in the US with clickable links for direct access. You don't have to Google. The list of 53 consulates is right there, direct access through a link. You can check to see what the requirements are. Because like I said, each consulate, for those of you who have been here, each consulate has different requirements. You cannot look at one consulate and they say, okay, the monthly financial solvency requirement is $3,700. And you go to another consulate with your paperwork saying you make $3,700, but that consulate, you need $4,700. So it's a great resource, easy to access. It tells you what the role of the Mexican consulate is. I give you an at-a-glance map of the consulates in the US. There's a breakdown on how to book your appointment at a Mexican consulate. What is financial solvency? How does the Mexican government, define that? And how it changes, right? When does it change? How does it change? There's articles about Mexico and the US relationship, past and present, and it gives you a very clear understanding of our relationship, right? And then there's additional interesting facts about Mexico and links to other resources. Also, the From Here to There resource guide with 100 clickable website links to help you plan your move abroad with ease. It covers Canada, Costa Rica, Kenya, Mexico, Panama, Portugal, South Africa, and United Kingdom. Inside, you find information about 8 of the safest countries with large expat communities, links to visa and immigration, cost of living resources, expat communities and forums, health insurance information, language learning resources, and moving and relocation resources, all with clickable links.
Check description below for more info.
Okay. So let's just look at the first slide. And basically, there's a reason why so many of us, and not when I say us, I mean Americans, I'm not talking, race specific. So many of us have found quality of life and peace in Mexico. Let's just read some of the stats. First of all, Mexico's economy is currently 13th best in the world. People, including those from the USA and the rest of the world, are moving here seeking a better life. I'm an expat now, but hopefully next year I'll officially become an immigrant. P.S. Mexico would never build a wall to keep Americans out. It will charge buku bucks to move here. And that's one of the changes that we're going to talk about today. So there's 3 areas of change that we're going to talk about as it relates to travel to Mexico. The price and the cost to get residency, how it's going to be affected or how it's predicted to be affected. And we're not talking about 2025. So we still have some time, even though the cost, it will go up next year. By 2026, it will be cost prohibitive for many that it wasn't in the past. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what's happening at the border when we enter just as visitors. And we're going to talk about, oh shit, I don't want you to see we're going to talk about kind of what the tariffs may look like as well. So we talked about how the price to enter or the price to become a immigrant in Mexico and Canada. Canada has already, we're not talking about Canada today because Canada has already slowed down or made some changes to their visa processing system for people who want to enter into Canada. For today, we're talking specifically about Mexico. Oh, and I would be remiss for the new people. If you are not aware, there is a From Here to There resource guide with more than 100 clickable links for anyone who's looking for places to move. I've included the top 8 places that Black Americans are expatriating to, are calling home now, have created a life and residency there. And they include Panama, Costa Rica, the UK, Mexico, of course, and there's more. So the link should be in the description. If it's not now, it will be later. So let's just get back to Mexico. Mexico's current president just rolled out a new 10 to 15-year mortgage loan with 0 interest. The previous president launched an initiative so every kid in high school is now eligible for a scholarship if they choose to continue their education. Let me just rewind. Not some, every kid in high school is now eligible for a scholarship, not loan, scholarship, if they choose to continue their education. And so the same gentleman who, shared how he plans to become an immigrant in Mexico says they're going to need to build a wall to keep us out. No lies detected. Looking at the peso right now, for every $1 you will get almost 21 Mexican pesos. When I first started going to Mexico, that's what it was. It was between 20, when I first started my residency process, it was between $19 and $22, the conversion rate. It's back up now. It had dipped, but it is back up. And that just means right now, with inflation, those extra pesos will go very far because Mexico, let's face it, has experienced inflation too. Every country in the world, I think, or let me not general, most countries in the world have experienced inflation in some way or another. The dollar now is the weakness to the peso, excuse me, the strength to the peso has grown. It will come back down. So now is the time. Like if you're looking to make any moves, convert your money, do whatever, now is the time. 21 pesos can get you kind of far. And I hate to say it like that, but I'm talking specifically on everyday items like groceries and stuff like that. It is, people are happy. My friends in Mexico are so excited about the where the peso is today. And so let's go on to the next. Y'all don't really need to see me, so let's go ahead and go over the next slide. So I talked about what's happening with the dollar. I talked about what's going on to make Mexico so attractive, them being 13th, their economy being 13th best in the world. Now, understand there are 198 countries in the world. So when you say Mexico is ranked 13, that's pretty significant. That's pretty high. We don't often see that portrayed in the news. And when people are calling places like Mexico as, holy countries, then we don't understand that this is actually a pretty economically sound country. But we're also going to talk about, look at the slides at the bottom. When you are imposing a 25% tariff to a country that delivers so much of the things that we use on a daily basis, you're playing with fire. You're playing with fire. And so when you look at just the U.S. fresh fruit and vegetable, is the second slide with the colors, the yellow, green, and red. It says, so basically, it's a comparison of pounds when you look at Mexico, Canada, and all other countries, and how the U.S. gets their fresh fruits and vegetables. And if you look at the green, that represents Mexico. And so if you look at 2008 to 2020, it went from 69 million pounds to 77 million pounds that are imported into the United States from Mexico. What is that going to do? And that's 2020, but this is the USDA's data, Economic Research Service, calculating using U.S. Department of Commerce Bureau and of the Census data. So this is information that we have, that the U.S. have. This is information that Mexico is providing to us. So just wanted to show you that slide first, and then we're going to go to the next slide. And looking at Mexico represents nearly 25% of all North American vehicle production. If you look at the graph, it just really shows you how many cars are imported from Mexico to the US under the different motor companies, right? The automobile companies. There's so much implication surrounding that it's going to be a scary time here. It's going to be a scary time here. Welcome, Gwen. Thank you for joining. I already said, okay, start with, so we're going to talk about that next. Questions. Have you discussed how people are seeking sustainable income while living abroad? We did go over ways to, let me look at the exact title. That was this week, actually. So it's part of the playlist, the Move Abroad Gems playlist. Digital nomad tips for Black women. And I mentioned yesterday and during that video, this applies to Black men as well. The only reason I labeled it Black women was because I get this question often, but I never get it from a man. So this was directly to answer the sisters who have like, oh, how do you sustain yourself? How can you make money? So this video was posted on November 22nd. You could check it out. Okay, so let me go back to what we are talking about. Okay, but we are going to go over some of the other things that are happening that I talked about earlier. For those of you that don't know, I do consultations for people who are serious about their move to Mexico and are looking for strategies and some, accountability to help them in their journey, right? And so I had two yesterday. I have one tomorrow, one on Friday. Anyway, saying all that to say, I am ingrained in the Mexican community, the visa community. I have, I'm in facilitator communities. I have direct contacts with a couple facilitators. Those are the people that can help you when you're in Mexico to finalize the process. And they keep me updated on any changes or anything that's going on. These are some of the changes, what is going on. So these are just two of the comments. There are so many comments similar to this, but I just brought out two of the comments to give you some insight as to what's going on in these residency streets. Good morning, everybody, or even tourism streets. I got a tourist visa stamp for 40 days, but it turns out that I need to stay a couple more weeks. What should I do about this? So here comes the slowdown. Mexico was known to give Americans, for the most part, 90+% of the time you enter Mexico, you're getting 180 days, which is how long? 6 months. This was posted in one of the groups that I am in 2 days ago. So this person thought they were going to get 180 days. The immigration officer stamped her for 40 days. But she needs to be there for about 54, 55 days. But guess what? She can't. Well, she can. So you can't overstay your visa, but then you are technically an illegal immigrant. I mean, an illegal alien, an illegal visitor, right? Once you overstay your visa, you are not in that country legally anymore. What happens though, you probably won't get, arrested or anything like that. But when it's time for you to exit, you will pay a fine for overstaying your welcome. And the fine's, a couple $100, you're going to have to pay a fine. So don't bank on that 180-day visa. So I forgot who asked that question, and I can't see the chat right now. But when you ask me the question, should you just do 180 days? Mexico may not give you 180 days. Think about it. 180 days from now is after the changing of the guards has happened. The madness and the mayhem will be in full effect and people will be running to the border, right? So they are starting the process now to control the people that are entering into their country on a tourist visa from the US. So, but if you're just going as a tourist, don't think you're just going to go lounge in Tulum for 6 months and it's going to be okay because you don't want to be around the noise. No, you may be only able to lounge for 2 weeks, depending on how much time they give you when you enter the country. Here's another one. The mass number of people that are trying to exit is filling up the consulate appointments here in the US. And so this was posted about, I'm going to say within a week. Someone said, I live in Los Angeles and contacted the Mexican consulate here for an appointment to apply for a temporary resident visa. They aren't making appointments until January. Does anyone know of a Mexican consulate in the US that has a short turnaround time for appointments? So consulates, because of the results, are filling up. So that's why the process has to be started now, because it's not going to get any better. The backlog is going to get worse. So my consultations are for serious people. I do a strategy call. Not only do I do a strategy call, I do a follow-up with a plan of action, a roadmap to help you get to where you want to be in a set amount of time. You get a lot of resources, and you get access. I give you my cell number and all of that. So I help you along the way. So it is not, something that is for everybody. But what is for everybody who's interested, it is called Your Guide to Mexican Residency Phase 1. Everything you need to start the process in the US. Direct links to every consulate are included, along with some other things. Let me tell you what else is included. And so what you will get exactly what is the role of the Mexican consulate here in the US, a list of all 53 Mexican consulates in the US with links directly to their site. So you don't have to scour the internet trying to find these places, trying to find what their requirements are, because each consulate in the US has different requirements for residency. So you may want to see which ones are still taking appointments, which one have lower requirements, all of that. So you get a direct link to every consulate at all 53 consulates. You also get a how to book your appointment with some insider gems that I've learned along the way. You also get a definition of what they look for with financial solvency and what does that mean. And there's also some recent articles about Mexico and the US. So there's one that's really important. It takes us through the history, like our complicated history with Mexico. And some of the things we look like we're about to repeat ourselves. It's me doing the work so you don't have to. And again, this is something that comes with the consultation. Well, you get a much more in-depth resource guide, but this is to start you off here, phase 1 in the US ASAP. So when I talk about is Mexico closing its borders to Americans, I'm not playing. Like this is not a clickbait. This is absolutely serious. Now, do I think they're going to close their borders? Absolutely not, because financially, we mean too much to them. We bring too much money into that country, and they know our dollar is strong. And so they're not going to say no to that. But what they are going to do, they're going to take the creme de la creme, the more financially rich, the ones at the higher household income, and prioritize them. This is another notification that I got yesterday. I got this I was in the middle of a consultation when this notice came through, advising of the latest about the Mexican residency requirements for 2025. So a 12% increase has been proposed by President Sheinbaum, but hasn't been finalized yet. The 2025 minimum wage in Mexico is set to be finalized and written into law sometime the first week of December 2024, after all branches of government have come to an agreement. That's why we don't post anything until it becomes official. So this expert has been getting a lot of questions, like what's going on. I want to know what the requirements are for 2025. But this is typical. Mexico doesn't typically release the requirements until the end of the year, the month prior to the start of the new year, because their requirements are based on the minimum wage of Mexico. It says the increase in Mexico's minimum wage is what increases the economic solvency requirements for Mexican residency each year. Stay tuned for what the final minimum wage will be in 2025 from the official source, and this is the official source to find out. But again, check the description for all the resources that I have available. And let's just see what the questions are.
Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, check out the Stay Ready playlist. Make sure it's part of your toolkit for making moves in 2025. Also, check out this video that YouTube thinks you may like. Any questions or comments, share them down below.